Imagine this, your entire world, the life you've carved out, the family you've poured your heart into, the home where you've laughed and cried, all of it snatched away in one brutal, soul-crushing instant. That's where my story begins. A tale so jagged and real, it'll make you rethink trust, loyalty, and the delicate strings tying us to the ones we love. My name's Jasper Holloway, and years ago, I found myself standing on the edge of my family's front porch, 2 bags slung over my shoulder, my heart splintered into 1,000 pieces as the people I'd have taken a bullet for turned their backs on me. Why? Because my little sister Lila wove a lie so airtight, so devastating it became their truth. She accused me of stealing her engagement ring. The pain wasn't just in her words. It was in the way my parents' gazes turned to steel, the way my brother's smirk cut deeper than any knife. That day, I didn't just lose my family. I lost a piece of who I was. If you're here watching this, hang on tight, because this isn't some tearjerker sob story. It's a wild, emotional ride packed with betrayal, redemption, and a twist that'll knock the wind out of you. Let's roll back to that afternoon, one of those crisp, golden days where the air feels alive with possibility. The house was humming with joy, a rare lightness filling every corner. Lila had just gotten engaged to Ethan, her high school sweetheart, a guy who'd been around so long he was practically furniture. That ring, though, it was the star of the show. A dazzling emerald hugged by gold, glinting like it held all her dreams. She flaunted it constantly, waving her hand under everyone's nose, her smug little grin daring you to not notice. I'll admit, I was genuinely happy for her, even if her attitude sometimes made me want to roll my eyes so hard they'd stick. She'd always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, while I was the rough around the edges oddball, the one they tolerated more than celebrated. Still, I loved her, loved them all, and for a moment it felt like we were a real family, united in something good. Then, like a thunderclap, it all fell apart. She burst into the living room, tears streaming down her face, her voice a piercing wail that stopped us cold. "My ring! It's gone!" she cried, clutching her bare hand like it'd been maimed. The room froze, every pair of eyes darting, searching, until they landed on me. Me. Jasper, the screw-up, the one who'd borrowed her car once without asking, who'd never quite fit their polished mold. "Jasper took it!" she shrieked, her finger jabbing at me, trembling with what I thought was fear but now know was theater. I stood there, rooted, my throat tight, words stumbling out. "I didn't touch it, Lila, I swear." But her sobs swallowed my protests, her performance so flawless it drowned out reason. My parents didn't even blink. My dad, the man whose approval I'd chased my whole life, loomed over me, his voice a low growl. "We've given you everything, Jasper, and this is how you repay us?" My mom, clutching Lila like she was a wounded bird, shot me a look of pure disappointment, while Nate, my brother, leaned against the wall, arms crossed, muttering, "Typical. Always knew he'd mess up." I tried to fight back, my voice rising, cracking with desperation. "Search my room, check my pockets, I didn't do this." But they wouldn't hear it. To them, the case was closed, the verdict in, guilty. The accusations piled up fast, each word a brick in the wall they built between us. My dad's face hardened, my mom's tears fell for Lila, not me, and Nate's smug silence was its own condemnation. Within hours, I was stuffing my life into 2 duffel bags, my hands shaking as I grabbed clothes, books, anything I could carry. Lila sat on the couch, sobbing dramatically, playing the victim to perfection, while I became the villain in their story. The last thing I saw as I stepped out that door was my dad's silhouette in the window, head shaking in disgust. A sight that branded itself into my memory, a scar I carry for years. I wasn't just kicked out, I was erased, wiped from their lives like a stain they couldn't stand to look at. What followed was a blur of survival, a scramble to keep my head above water, when all I wanted was to sink. I crashed on friends' couches, took whatever jobs I could scrape up, and wrestled with an anger so fierce it threatened to consume me. Every night, I'd lie awake, replaying that day, dissecting every moment, wondering how my own sister could frame me, how my family could believe her without a shred of proof. Was it jealousy? Some petty revenge I'd never clocked? I didn't have answers, but the questions gnawed at me, relentless. Back at home, life marched on without me. Lila's wedding plans rolled forward, my parents carried on like I'd never existed, and I faded into a ghost in their narrative. For years, I hauled that burden, a toxic blend of rage and a longing I couldn't shake, until fate decided it was time to rewrite the script. That's where we're headed next, and trust me, it's a shift you won't see coming. If this story's gripping you, smash that like button and hit subscribe because we're just getting started. How does it feel to be betrayed by the ones you bleed for? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your stories too. Next time, we're diving into the Exile, the whispers that followed, and the cracks starting to show in Lila's perfect little lie. Stick around, because this ride's about to get wilder. Picture this. You're young, alone, standing on a cracked sidewalk with 2 bags and a heart so heavy it could drag you under, no home to turn back to, no family to call your own. That was me, Jasper Holloway, after my family threw me out over a lie that still twists my insides like a rusty blade. My sister Lila's accusation that I stole her engagement ring didn't just rob me of my place among them, it stripped away my identity, my peace, and years of my life I'll never get back. In this chapter, I'm tearing open the wounds of the exile that nearly shattered me, the rumors that hounded me, and the faint threads of hope I clung to when everything else was gone. If part 1 hit you hard, brace yourself, because this is where it gets gritty, real, and painfully raw. Let's dive into the mess. Those first days after they kicked me out were a haze, like waking up from a nightmare only to find it's your reality. I landed on my buddy Milo's couch, a lumpy, beer-stained lifeline that smelled faintly of regret. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, the hum of his TV in the background, replaying Lila's crocodile tears and my parents' icy judgment. How could they believe her? I'd mutter, my voice hoarse, fists clenched so tight, my nails dug into my palms. Milo would toss me a can of cheap beer, shrugging, "Families suck sometimes, man. You'll get through it." But this wasn't sometimes for me. It was a permanent eviction. I couldn't call them, couldn't text, couldn't even show up at the house without risking a fight or the cops. My mom blocked my number, a silent wall between us, and my dad sent one curt message, "Don't come back until you confess." Confess what? A theft I didn't commit? I was a stranger to them now, cut loose, and that realization sank into my bones like a cold I couldn't shake. Survival became my only goal, a brutal, day-by-day grind to keep from drowning. I took a job at a greasy diner, flipping burgers in a haze of sizzling oil, the stench clinging to my clothes like a second skin. At night, I'd haul boxes at a warehouse, my back screaming, my hands raw, just to scrape together enough for a tiny, mildew-stained studio apartment. It was a far cry from the room I'd grown up in, with its posters of bands I loved, its shelves of books, its sense of safety. Every paycheck was a reminder of what I'd lost, every quiet night a chorus of their voices in my head, thief, liar, disgrace. And then the rumors started, spreading through our small town like poison in the water. Jasper Holloway, the screw-up who stole his sister's ring, they'd whisper. Old friends stopped texting, their replies drying up like I'd caught some disease. Strangers stared at me in the grocery store, their eyes narrowing with suspicion. Once, I overheard Mrs. Carter, our nosy neighbor with a tongue sharper than a razor, hiss to her friend, "He always had those sneaky hands. Never trusted him." I wanted to scream, to grab her by the shoulders and shake the truth into her, but what's the point when no one's listening? Lila, though, she played her part like a master. Word trickled back to me through the grapevine, bits and pieces of her polished victim act. She'd spun her lie into a full-blown epic. How I'd always been jealous of her, how she'd forgiven me but couldn't forget the hurt. Her wedding to Ethan went off without a hitch. All white lace and clinking glasses, a fairy tale I wasn't invited to. I'd sit alone, eating cold ramen from a chipped bowl, scrolling through blurry photos a mutual friend posted online, unable to look away. My parents beamed in those pictures, their smiles wide and proud, while Nate smirked as best man, the brother who'd never had my back. Me? I was nowhere, erased from their perfect frame. But there were cracks, subtle hints I couldn't ignore. Tara, a friend who'd stayed neutral, let something slip once over drinks, her words slurring with liquor. Lila flips out whenever someone asks about that ring, just says it's safe now, all cryptic. Weird, right? I filed it away, a tiny ember of curiosity, but back then, I was too broken to chase it, too buried under the weight of my own survival. Those years forged me into something harder, tougher, but they also hollowed me out. I stopped crying, stopped hoping for an apology I knew wouldn't come. The dreams still crept in though, vivid and cruel. Lila confessing with tears, my mom wrapping me in a hug, my dad clapping my shoulder and saying, "We were wrong, son." I'd wake up, chest tight, the images dissolving into the dim light of my apartment, leaving me emptier than before. I kept going though, built a small life from the scraps, fragile as it was. I worked, I ate, I slept, I existed, telling myself that was enough. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over, that something was brewing, waiting to upend it all. And when it did, it hit like a freight train. That's the bombshell we're barreling toward in part 3. And trust me, it's a game changer you won't want to miss. If this chapter's got you hooked, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this story's far from over. Ever been betrayed by the people you'd die for? Pour it out in the comments. I've been there, and I feel you. Next time, we're cracking open the moment the truth clawed its way out, and it's a twist that'll leave you speechless. Stay with me, because this ride's about to get wilder. Years. That's how long I, Jasper Holloway, drifted as an outcast, branded a thief by my own blood over a lie my sister Lila spun with tears that could have fooled anyone. I'd clawed a life together from the rubble, a shaky existence built on diner shifts and warehouse nights, but it was mine. Then on a quiet day, wiping down sticky tables after a rush, the past came crashing back. And the truth I'd yelled into the void finally broke free. This isn't just a flicker of vindication, it's a bitter twist of irony, a slow unraveling of justice, at a moment so unreal, it felt like I'd stepped into someone else's story. If you've been with me through this gut-wrenching ride, you've tasted the betrayal. But hold on, because this is where it all shifts, and the jagged pieces of this puzzle snap together. Let's dive in. It started with a call from Tara, my old friend who'd stayed on the edges of the chaos, never picking sides. I was at the diner, the clatter of dishes fading as the crowd thinned, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I fished it out, expecting a quick catch-up, but her voice trembled on the other end. "Jasper, you need to hear this. It's about Leela." My stomach nodded. I trained myself not to say her name, not to let it stir the dull ache I'd buried. "What now?" I muttered, my tone flat, bracing for another round of her drama. But Tara's words slammed into me like a brick. "They found the ring, in the garbage disposal." I laughed, a harsh barking sound that echoed in the empty diner, thinking it was some sick joke. She pressed on, insistent. "No, I'm serious. Ethan was fiddling with it, trying to fix a clog, and there it was, all banged up but unmistakable. Lila's a wreck, and your parents, they're asking about you." The garbage disposal. That ancient, rattling beast under the kitchen sink? The one I'd offered to tinker with a dozen times before they kicked me out. I could see it now, clear as day. Lila hovering by the counter, snapping at me to stay out of her space, while she scrubbed dishes, her hands frantic. It crashed over me like a wave. She dropped it, watched it vanish down that drain, and instead of owning up, she pointed the finger at me. For years, I'd carried the blame, the shame, the exile, and there it was, chewed up and spit out, screaming the truth at last. I didn't know whether to shout or crumble, so I just stood there, raglan in my hand, her fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Tara kept talking, her voice a blur. "Your mom called me, Jasper. She sounded off, like she knows they screwed up big time." I cut her off, mumbled a thanks, and hung up. My head spinning, my pulse hammering with a mix of rage and a spark of something I hadn't felt in ages. Hope. Word spread like wildfire through our little town, a blaze I couldn't outrun. By nightfall, my phone was a battlefield of notifications, messages from people I hadn't heard from since the fallout. Milo texted, "Dude, you were right all along, holy crap." A cousin I barely remembered chimed in, "Lila's a liar, man. I'm sorry I didn't see it." Even Mrs. Carter, the gossip queen with a knack for twisting knives, left a voicemail, her tone syrupy. "Jasper dear, I owe you an apology. We all got it wrong." I played it twice, her words a surreal echo of a validation I'd stopped chasing. But for my family, dead silence. No call, no text, no "we're sorry." Just the weight of Tara's update hanging heavy in the air. I couldn't sit still, couldn't breathe in that stale apartment. I grabbed my keys, drove to the old house, and parked across the street, brow staring at the warm glow spilling from the windows. Inside, they were probably reeling, arguing, maybe even turning on each other. I pictured Lila's wide-eyed panic, my dad's gruff denial, my mom's quiet tears. I wanted to storm in, kick the door down, demand they face me, but I didn't. Not yet. This was their mess to unravel first. The next day, Nate reached out. Nate, the brother who'd smirked while I burned, who'd stood by as they cast me out. His text was short, stiff. "We need to talk." I stared at it, fingers hovering over the screen, but didn't reply. My mind was a storm, churning with questions, possibilities, and a fury I'd kept caged too long. The ring wasn't just some shiny bauble. It was the key to my banishment, the anchor of Lila's lie, and now it was free, glinting in the wreckage of their perfect little world. Her story was collapsing, thread by thread, and I could feel the ground shifting beneath me. Was this the start of something new, a chance to mend what they'd broken, or just another rejection dressed up as regret? I didn't know, but the tide was turning, and I wasn't the same Jasper they'd thrown away. That's the cliffhanger we're riding into part 4, and trust me, it's a showdown that'll sear itself into your memory. If this twist has you reeling, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because we're far from the finish line. Ever had the truth come out when it's almost too late? Drop your stories in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Next time, we're stepping into the family fallout, and it's messy, emotional, and as real as it gets. Don't miss it, because this is where the masks come off. The air was thick, heavy with tension you could choke on, as I, Jasper Holloway, crossed the threshold of the house I'd been banished from years ago. The ring, that damned emerald lie, had been coughed up by the garbage disposal, ripping my sister Lila's story to shreds, and dragging my family into a confrontation they couldn't sidestep. After Nate's terse text, I agreed to face them. Not because I was ready to forgive, but because I needed to see their faces when the truth stared them down. This isn't just a meeting, it's a reckoning. A collision of guilt, pride, and the haunting echoes of a trust I'd buried deep. If you've stuck with me through this brutal journey, you know the stakes are towering. In this chapter, it's the showdown that shattered the silence. Let's dive into the fire. I stepped inside, the familiar creak of the floorboards slicing through me like a memory I'd tried to forget. My parents sat at the dining table, stiff as statues, their faces etched with unease. Lila hovered near the kitchen, arms crossed tight, her eyes darting like a cornered animal. Nate slouched against the wall, avoiding my gaze, his usual smirk nowhere in sight. The room was a powder keg, and I was the match. No one spoke until my dad cleared his throat, his voice rough as gravel. "Jasper, sit down." I didn't move. I stood there, hands jammed in my pockets, staring at the people who'd tossed me out like trash. "So," I said, my words sharp enough to draw blood, "you found it, in the disposal. Funny how that works, huh?" Lila flinched, a quick, guilty twitch, but my mom jumped in, her voice trembling. "We didn't know, Jasper. She swore it was you. We believed her." I laughed, a cold, hollow sound that bounced off the walls. Believed her? No questions, proof, just her word over mine. That's what I was worth to you. The dam broke. Lila snapped, her voice shrill and cracking. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. It fell, okay? I panicked. I didn't know what to do." She stepped forward, hands flailing, but I wasn't buying the act this time. "Panicked?" I shot back, my tone rising, bitter and unyielding. "You didn't panic when you pointed at me, Lila. You didn't panic when you watched them pack my bags, when you let them kick me to the curb. You didn't panic when you got married, all smiles and flowers while I was sleeping on couches, scraping by. Years, Lila. You had years to come clean, and you didn't." My dad slammed his hand on the table, the sound of gunshot in the quiet. "Enough. We made a mistake, Jasper. We're sorry. Can't you see that?" Sorry. That word dangled there, flimsy as tissue paper, and the anger I'd carried for so long erupted. "A mistake? You didn't lose your keys, Dad. You lost me. You chose her lie over your own son, and you didn't even blink." My mom started crying, her sobs soft and broken, her hands reaching for me across the table. "We trusted her, Jasper," she whispered, her voice barely holding. "She's our daughter too. We didn't know what to think." That hit me, a fresh stab of pain, but Nate's scoff cut through the haze. "Yeah, well, she played us all like fools. I told you he wouldn't do it, but you wouldn't listen to me either." I turned to him, stunned, my eyes narrowing. "You defended me?" He shrugged, awkward, scratching the back of his neck. "Not loud enough, obviously. Should have fought harder." For a second, I saw the brother I'd lost, the one I'd shared secrets and stupid jokes with, but it couldn't erase the years of his silence, his smirks while I burned. Lila tried again, her voice desperate, pleading. "I'll make it right, Jasper. I swear I will. Please, give me a chance." I looked at her, really looked, and saw not the sister I'd once adored, but a stranger clutching at lifelines she'd cut herself. "You can't," I said, quiet but firm, final. "Not like this. Not after everything." The room dissolved into chaos, their voices overlapping, a tangle of excuses and pleas. My mom's sobs grew louder, my dad's gruff apologies clashed with Lila's frantic promises, and Nate muttered something under his breath I couldn't catch. I turned to leave, their words chasing me like shadows. My dad yelled after me, "We want you back, Jasper. We're family." But I kept walking, the door slamming shut behind me. Back in my car, I sat there, hands shaking on the wheel, my breath ragged as I replayed it all. They were sorry. Yeah, I could feel it. But was it enough? The trust was gone, splintered by years of their doubt, their choice to believe her over me without a shred of evidence. I wasn't the same person they'd thrown away, and I couldn't just step back into that life like nothing had happened. But as I drove off, a crack opened in the wall I'd built. Just a sliver, a whisper of maybe. That's where we're headed in the final chapter, and it's a choice that'll define it all. If this showdown's got you on edge, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because we're one step from the end. Ever faced an apology that felt too little too late, like it couldn't fix the wreckage? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear your stories, because I've lived this one. Next time, we're wrapping it up with a decision that's been years in the making, and it's going to hit you right in the feels. Don't miss it, because this is where it all comes full circle. Years of exile, a lie that hacked me out of my family like a weed, and a truth that finally clawed its way out of a garbage disposal. It all brought me, Jasper Holloway, to this defining edge. After the showdown at the dining table where apologies fell like patches on a wound too deep to stitch, I faced a choice. Return to the family who'd cast me aside or walk away for good. This isn't just a finale, it's a rebirth. A raw, tangled shedding of trust, love, and the fierce strength of choosing myself. If you've weathered this storm with me, you've felt the betrayal's bite, the weight of their doubt, and the faint hope glowing in the wreckage. Now let's seal this story with a decision that reshaped my world. After that confrontation, I holed up in my cramped apartment, the quiet pressing in as I sank into the worn couch, staring at an old photo. It was us, me, Lila, Nate, our parents, caught laughing at a barbecue, a relic of a time when trust wasn't a war zone. My sister's lie about her engagement ring had raised that life, and now their words swarmed my phone like relentless echoes. Mom's text pleaded for me to come home, her desperation dripping through every line. "We miss you, Jasper, please." Dad's were blunt, vowing to make it right, as if promises could rebuild what they'd wrecked. Nate's cut simpler. "You're still my brother, man." Lila's was a sprawling mess, guilt and pleas tumbling over each other. "I messed up, I know, I'll do anything to fix this." I read them all, let them soak in, felt the pull of the past I'd lost. But something had hardened inside me, a shift I couldn't undo. The kid who'd begged for their belief was gone, replaced by a man who'd thrived despite their rejection. I didn't owe them my absolution, I owed myself freedom. I agreed to meet them one last time, but not at the house, that place was too haunted. We sat on a park bench by the lake we used to fish at, the water calm and gray, a neutral space where I could hold my ground. They looked diminished, frayed by their regret. Mom's eyes were swollen, red from crying, her hands twisting nervously. Dad sat stiff, his jaw clenched, fingers tapping an anxious beat. Lila lingered on the fringe, biting her lip, her usual swagger replaced by a jittery unease. Nate hung back, watching me with something like guilt or maybe respect. "We love you, Jasper," Mom began, her voice cracking on my name. "We want you back. We're so sorry." I let her words drift there, heavy and real, then spoke, my voice steady, deliberate. "I love you too, always will. But I can't come back. Not like it was." Lila's breath hitched, a sharp little sound. "What do you mean?" she asked, her tone fragile. I met her eyes, the sister I'd once adored, now a stranger I couldn't reach. "You broke something, Lila, not just with me, with all of us. Listen, you let that lie grow, and it ripped us apart. And you," I turned to my parents. "You let it happen. I needed you to trust me, to stand by me, and you didn't. I've built a life without that now, and I can't unmake it." Dad leaned in, his voice thick with feeling. "We were wrong, son. Dead wrong. We'll do better, I swear." I shook my head, stopping him. "It's not about doing better. It's about what I need. I forgive you, I do, but I'm not that kid anymore begging for your faith. I can't live where trust was optional, where I had to prove I wasn't a thief every day." Nate stepped forward, his voice low, uncertain. "So that's it? We're done?" I looked at him, saw the brother I'd missed beneath the years of distance. "No," I said, gentler. "We're family. We'll talk, we'll meet, but I'm not moving back. I'm not pretending it didn't happen. I can't erase the years you let me go." Mom's sobs broke loose, raw and piercing, her hands stretching for me, but I held my place. Dad's eyes shimmered, a rare break in his toughness, and Lila whispered, "I'm sorry," again and again, a chant that couldn't rewrite the past. They hugged me, one by one, their arms warm but foreign, and for the first time in years I felt their love without the pain. But when I walked away, back to my car, my chest lifted, my steps firm. I wasn't running from them. I was running toward myself. Now I'm still here, in my small apartment, working, living, healing on my terms. We see each other sometimes, awkward coffees at a diner, stilted dinners where we fumble through words, rebuilding on shaky but honest ground. Lila's quieter, her pride softened by the fallout. My parents try harder, their voices gentler, their eyes searching for the son they lost. Nate's my tether, the one who gets it most, our bond frayed but holding. The ring? It's a battered keepsake in a drawer, a silent marker of what we shattered and what I reclaimed, myself. This isn't the tidy, tearful reunion you might picture, all hugs and happy endings. It's rougher, realer, a jagged line between who I was and who I've become. But it's mine, and that's more than enough. If this journey's moved you, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because stories like this don't just end, they evolve. Ever had to pick between family and your own truth, knowing neither feels complete? Share it in the comments, I'm here for it, because I've lived that fight. This is Jasper Holloway, signing off from Echoes of a Lost Trust, but not from life. Keep watching, keep feeling, and I'll see you in the next one.